My goal was to create a 5-minute visual novel sequence in only 2 days. However, little did I know that this project would dominate my life for nearly an entire week. From spinning wheels to randomly select which OCs I would make a visual novel about, to creating 3D models I would paint over to make background assets for the project. Allow me to take you through this journey of creating a 5-minute visual novel sequence for the first time. Today we are making a visual novel to test potential formats that I could tell my passion project in, because I am such an indecisive, overly ambitious soul who yearns to create. I was going to take a scene from my passion project, One of the Powerful, that I had originally written a while back to test out different formats, but I wanted to challenge myself a little bit. So I made a list of 16 characters from this project and put them into a spinning wheel, which would randomly decide who I would make a visual novel about. Okay, so for the visual novel idea, I'm going to try and randomly select some characters from my little project, One of the Powerful. The names that are put down here are characters who are kind of just non-spoilery, you know. There are some characters I'm not gonna really reveal. We've got a lot of the main cast, a lot of the secondary characters, and I threw in Richard and Arthur, who are characters I introduced last video just for the fun, because I adore them, and if it lands on them then it's like fate. So let's just spin the wheel and just see who gets selected, so this will be fun. Stop! No. 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 Guys, this is not staged. 16 characters? Technically 14 aren't related to Arthur and Richard. Arthur got selected. Okay, so Arthur's tricky because I can't have him interact with everyone on this list except for Richard because of, well, spoilers, you know? I can't have him interacting with characters. I know that's a bit silly. It's like, oh, why did he put them down? But I literally did not think they were gonna get, like, Arthur was gonna get picked. That is so funny. Okay, Arthur's been selected. That is a choice. That is actually so freaking funny. It's like the world wants me to make, you know, a visual novel based on Arthur and Richard. I mean, hey, I would do it. I would. I might. The first character that got picked was Arthur, and as you could tell by my reaction, I was just a little bit happy. And if you don't know who Arthur and Richard are, I highly suggest that you watch my video where I made an animatic about them. And I also proceed to ramble about these characters and their lore for 20 minutes straight. I put a lot of work into that one, and will admit I was a little bit gutted when I saw that the video underperformed compared to the other talking videos I've made. So if you like OC rambles, lore, angst, and the process of creating an animatic, please do check it out. Anyways, back to our scheduled programming. Stop it! Stop it! No, Arthur, a third time? Don't do it. No! No, stop it! Stop! Okay, fine, I'll put Richard down. Fine. Once I had a few characters selected by the wheel, I decided to do another round to select a potential partner to write them with for the visual novel project. Oh no, not the worst one! No, this is the worst one! No, universe, no. No, these two are the worst. I really don't want to do them, please, no. No, I don't want to write this one. The final pairs would then fight and decide a winner. Yeah, it really doesn't want me to pick Arthur and Richard, huh? It really doesn't want me to pick them. They haven't picked Richard and Arthur once. This is so rigged. Finally, some justice. During this, Richard and Arthur barely got chosen and had to be eliminated. Oh, that really hurt to do that. No. Oh no. No, just no. It's take it, I'll stop now, I'll stop because our friend Richard got eliminated from the game. Oh boy, I'm gonna have to come up with some stuff now. After much spinning and bargaining with this cruel wheel, that gave me the hope of working on a visual novel about two OCs I've been obsessed with lately, only to pull the rug from underneath me and kick me while I'm down. I ended up with Kenichi and Suki, who are grandfather and granddaughter. These two characters are part of the Mercury family, which I will explain later. Once these two characters got selected, I kinda realised that Kenichi and Suki don't have too many scenes together in the actual series, as a lot of the Mercury family is seen from Hoshi's point of view, who dare I say is a second-ish main character after Eren. You will see why in the series itself. There's a lot of lore and stuff that I can't get into. So with the lack of scenes between these two, I took the opportunity to latch onto the perfect situation that could occur between Suki and Kenichi, where Suki's parents meet a tragic end and so she is crowned the family head by her grandfather, who gives Suki her father's star brooch, which is an item passed down the Mercury family from generation to generation. With a strong idea in my head, I spent a few hours scripting this concept, and I had a lot of fun getting into the characters' heads. So this morning I kind of spent a wee bit writing out a script for the visual novel. I don't know if this is going to be very good, but you know, I was kind of struggling with it. Part of me wanted to just maybe adapt something I've already written. I was like, okay, how can I have these two characters talk? And I kind of thought of a really good scene that canonically happens with, and it's quite like a deep conversation because I've seen Hoshi's point of view of this whole situation, but I've never really delved into Suki, which is Hoshi's sister's point of view about everything, because oh boy, it's a bad situation. And I quite like what I've written here. You know, I feel like it adds a bit more context, and it also will give me time to flesh out Suki's like house, her family house. I kind of imagined it in my head here and there. I've never actually designed or drew anything for it. So you know, this will be fun. Going to be a servant, which I've called Anna for now. Maybe her name will change, I don't know. This is a sketch I drew of her a while ago. I quite like this because I was kind of a bit iffy on my end choice. Part of me was like, do I want to do Richard and Arthur? But you know, I feel like this has a lot to work with. And while this script will see some minor revisions as I go about creating the visual novel, the majority of it is set in stone. When it came to creating visuals for this, well, visual novel, I am using Krita to draw the storyboards. Krita is a free open source software that I've been using since forever, and it's just so great. I use it to occasionally animate, render illustrations, and paint backgrounds. All of the illustration work that you'll see here today is made with Krita. Hashtag not sponsored. I don't know why that sounded like a sponsorship. As always, I tend to keep my storyboards really loose and messy just to jot an idea down and move on. For the sprites of Suki, Kenichi, and our new character that I haven't introduced yet, were kind of traced from old assets that I had drawn of them just to save time, as if you remember from the very dramatic intro, I originally wanted to make this project in 2 days. With my storyboard drawn, I hopped into DaVinci Resolve and combined my messy sketches with the script. This took a good few hours. Who knew that editing some pictures and words together would take so long? And yeah, I am editing this visual novel together in a video format instead of coding it like you would see usually. Because this doesn't require any interactivity or multiple choices due to it being a linear narrative, and this is only a proof of concept to test out an idea, I've also never fully made a visual novel before. My only previous attempt was the scene between Eren and Hoshi that I got inspired to make after playing Umaneko nearly a year ago. And if I decide, yeah, I am taking one of the powerful the visual novel route after episode 1, maybe I would consider learning how to code a visual novel instead of just editing it all together like I did here. But for proof of concept purposes, I'm more than happy just editing it for now. The final edit turned out to be over 5 minutes long, and that concludes the work I did for day 1. Originally, I wanted to draw all 4 backgrounds, draw all 5 CGs, and draw all 20 character sprites in one day. Yeah, even as I fell asleep on day 1, I saw the cracks very clearly. I mean, sure, yeah, me a few years ago probably would have found a way to whip this visual novel up in only 2 days. Impressive, yes, but at the cost of the art quality and my sanity. The 2-day limit was just a soft deadline, by the way, as while I wanted this project out the way so I could make this video and move on to other things, I'm trying to avoid working myself as much as I used to avoid physical pain, which to be fair I still couldn't fully avoid, crippling self-doubt, a negative relationship of how I see my work, and gaining burnout. Yay! It turns out overworking myself like a mindless zombie to create my projects had such a negative effect on me that I never ever want to go through what I did last year again. So I'm just trying to improve from that and realize that I need to look after the person behind the art too. For the second and final day in my original plan, I began 3D modeling the Mercury Mansion, which is a location that I've been meaning to visually develop for a long time. There's just one little itty bitty problem. I have such a hard time with interior design, it's really a skill that I need to develop. However, I used some references of some older built mansions to help with the design of a couple of rooms. The staircase and the hall that leads to nowhere. This took a minute to model, by the way, however the bevel tool made it so much easier for the steps. Really, it was just the railing that gave me the most trouble. However, I finally got there. I also began setting out the dining area, where I wanted the table and chairs on a large rug, and then there would also be a fireplace and a portrait of a character who won't be relevant at all. This layout of the mansion will require more work and refining in the future, but hopefully the final paintings will give this model some more life. I also started rendering this shot of the staircase in the hall, and that was my work for day 2. Sadly, it wasn't as much as I originally wanted to do, but I already knew getting this project completed in such a short time wasn't possible, so instead I created this fun drawing of Sonic for a few hours, as I just felt like drawing him. Anyways, the following day I finished the painting of the staircase background. And don't worry, I'll talk more in depth about painting over 3D models later on. I also got a little tired working on background assets, so I moved on to drawing out all of Suki's sprites. I used this drawing of her as a base to work from to save me some time. Since Suki is slightly younger here compared to how she is when you meet her officially in the series, so Suki has shorter hair. Originally Suki as a teenager had shoulder length hair, however once she became the head of her family, as well as taking on the responsibilities that come with it, Suki grows her hair out, which could symbolize the weight of her past that she is carrying. A bit of a side tangent, however I find it amusing that Hoshi also had very short hair in his youth due to his parents being very strict on him. However, as the series progresses, Hoshi grows his hair longer, symbolizing his freedom and self-acceptance. While we're talking about hair symbolism, a bit of an odd topic, I know. However, Eren is also the same. Before the first episode, Eren used to have very long hair, symbolizing their guilt and hurt after what happened to their childhood friend. And it could also symbolize Eren using it as a metaphorical shield to hide a part of themselves from the world. Then Eren cuts it off before the events of the first episode, symbolizing how they were moving forward by literally moving away from their hostile hometown, but it's slowly growing back as the series progresses, symbolizing how Eren feels trapped by their past. Then they cut it off again, even shorter this time, which contrasts Hoshi, and I will let you figure out why Eren cuts their hair off when the time comes. Back on topic about character sprites, I drew Kenichi as well, and can I just say that drawing elderly people is just so much fun. I really enjoy it. I don't get to do it very often, so it's such a treat whenever I get the opportunity. Kenichi has been a character who even existed in the old One of the Powerful outline. He is a character who is bound to the traditions of his family, much like his son did. However, once he sees how much it jeopardizes the relationship of his grandson especially, Kenichi grows more softer over time. Kenichi is someone who is very much present throughout the majority of the series, and it wasn't until last year that I decided to slightly update his design, which I think is an improvement. I like his mustache and how I can experiment with expressions without his mouth. Kenichi here is drawn from a previous illustration of him that I used as a base to work from, which was the first and only time I've ever drawn his updated design until now. Let's move on to painting some more backgrounds, as during the third day I painted this door, which took me around an hour to paint. The Mercury Mansion is very blue, but I might want to look at toning it down just a little bit in the future, as I wouldn't want the characters to look as if they're blending into the background. I do balance it out a little better in another background shot that I will showcase. The doors here are also marked with this 4-pointed star symbol that is basically the family's branding. It's been with them since the very beginning. Even when the Mercury children come of age, they get branded with the mark of their family, a symbol to show that they're forever bound to it. But do you want to know a little behind the scenes fun story of how this 4-pointed star became the symbol of the Mercury family? This is Hoshi, Suki's younger brother, and way back I created this design of him for when he uses his powers. A very star-themed design. However, the thing is, I suck at drawing stars, and so to simplify his design for animation, I instead gave Hoshi a 4-pointed star instead of a 5-pointed one. And when I thought about Hoshi's family more in depth, the 4-pointed star ended up becoming the family symbol over time, and it unintentionally added more depth to Hoshi's powerful state design as well, which is just funny how things work out sometimes. Remember that 3D model I made? I set out my camera in Blender and imported a PNG of it into Krita to start overpainting the dining hall background. Before this project, I have only overpainted a 3D model only once before, which was this illustration of Grainbush. Doing this saves a lot of time in the sketching phase, however rendering can be very tedious. The rendering alone, not including the 3D modeling, took me 3 hours. I also thought the use of blue was a bit too much, even with the white breaking it up, so I added in some red and gold accents to help warm this piece up a little. And I think this colour palette looks quite nice. What do you think? When it comes to painting backgrounds, there are 4 methods I usually do. Drawing the background in Krita from start to finish, which sure it does take a while, I love the result. You can also draw each piece individually in Krita and place the flat PNGs in a 3D space to get some neat panning shots. My third method is to create geometric shapes in Blender, then paint over them in Krita, like with this background I'm painting, which saves time at the beginning. However, I would have to repaint this from scratch if I wanted an angle change for a comic or an animation for an example. There is also the method that I'm using to make episode 1 of One of the Powerful. Creating fully textured 3D models in Blender, then do some quick overpainting in Krita, which for big animation projects saves so much time, and it's my more favoured method due to the flexibility of it. However, I do like all 4 and they all have their uses. I think it's interesting thinking about how you can take different approaches for the same task. Overall, I had so much fun designing and painting this background. It's for sure one of my favourite backgrounds I think I've ever painted. Those 3 hours were so worth it. After spending many hours painting backgrounds, I wanted to move on to drawing our final character. She's a character that I haven't officially introduced yet, so this is Anne, a very happily and bubbly servant working in the Mercury Mansion. Anne is very much a background character and we don't see her very often. There's also another servant I designed alongside Anne a while back who is unnamed for now, and there are probably some more servants around as well. The Mercury family are very well known for their wealth, and that has remained the case for generations, since the Great Divide long ago. But enough about this, let's get back to Anne. I felt like Anne would be Suki's only friend around her age growing up. As Suki's father kept her isolated her entire life and only allowed Hoshi to enroll at school due to some weird experiment of his. Due to this isolation and her strict upbringing, Suki grew to become very distant with her emotions and mostly relies on her head, where her brother is the exact opposite. Suki is also very socially awkward, due to only having a servant as a friend, which had to be kept secret from Yoru, Suki's father, as due to his strict nature he didn't want Suki to have any distractions, so he would have fired Anne on the spot if he ever found out. What a nice character, right? Anne's design is only a first draft by the way, I may tweak it in the future. However, since she's overall such a minor character who will appear very briefly throughout all 40 plus episodes, it's not too much of a worry for me, but again, this might change in the future. However, I do like her bright brown hair, which you can't see too well due to the dim lighting in our sprites, but it helps her stand out compared to the cool hues seen in the setting she's based in. Although, I just thought of a fun idea. When I create episodes, I'm thinking of creating more shorter episodes, where it's just filler, yeah, but think of them as like silly side quest shenanigans that help add more depth to the characters. What if I potentially made a little short about Anne taking Suki on a fun day out, to help Suki explore how ordinary people spend their day? The two contrast each other a lot and I feel like they would make great friends. I would honestly consider making something like this, even fitting it into the actual series if it would make sense. But these shorts aren't mandatory to make or anything, the main 40 plus episodes are my main priority at the moment, and if I do want to create some fun shorts here and there during my downtime, then I would definitely consider it. And that is all the sprites drawn and most of the backgrounds completed, aside from one which I will work on last. On to making the CGs for the visual novel. The first scene I worked on is Suki looking desperately at her grandfather, wondering where her family is. I had so much fun drawing Suki here, it's not too often where she's this expressive due to her closed off nature. I also drew her body and face separately to help with the rendering, as Suki will switch between two sprites. The other is when she has a dreaded realization and looks completely soulless. This shot took me around 40 minutes to draw, and I especially enjoyed adding the lighting here. While we're talking about Suki, let's draw the sprites where her grandfather leaves and she showcases her real emotions when she's all alone. The first sprite is Suki looking serious as she restrains her true feelings when she wears the family symbol to act the part, like she is responsible and she has it all together. It's very sad that this is the version of his sister that Hoshi remembers. as when you learn more about him, you will know that Hoshi really doesn't like Suki due to a lot of reasons, and Suki in the visual novel sequence starts to hold resentment towards her brother for being the only survivor, which her grandfather quickly shuts it down, of course, not wanting Suki to choose a path of vengeance and anger like her late father. And Hoshi, being the only one who lived from the incident that took his parents, lives with a lot of complicated emotions and guilt, which you will learn, of course, throughout the series itself. These characters have so much more to them beyond the surface level explanation I've given you all throughout this video. Writing complicated character relationships is one of my favourite things to do, and I hope I sparked some kind of interest for you all. Back on track with this shot. On the second sprite, Suki begins to cry and places her hand over the brooch her father left behind. For the background, I added in the staircase I drew in the previous shot and just blurred it a little. The next CG is Kenichi holding the box of the brooch in it, and I struggled drawing his hands here at first, so I did the only reasonable thing and took a reference of myself holding a small cardboard box, and this really helped me out a lot. Reference pictures are just amazing, I need to use them more often. I really like how the lighting turned out here, as well as rendering everything. Do you know that I really like rendering stuff? It's just so fun! There are two different drawings here, one of the box closed and another of the box open revealing the brooch. Also, ignore that I drew the line art for Kenichi's body and then forgot all about it. It's fine. And finally, the last CG of Suki holding the star brooch. I used a Clip Studio Paint 3D model to help out with the hand here, as I had been working on this project for way too long at this point and my brain was getting kinda fried. Other than that, this shot went smoothly. It only took me 30 minutes to draw. I also drew these flashback sequences of Hoshi in the hospital in a rougher, sketchier style. I was using my Android tablet while working on this, and it would just not allow me to export to speed paint or even access the frames. So I'm unable to show you all the process of making this, I'm sorry. Finally, we're here, onto the last asset for the visual novel, the family portrait of Camilla, Yoru, Suki, and Hoshi. Originally I was going to use this illustration of the family that I made back in late 2023, however after looking at it again for the first time, in a while, yeah, I do not like this anymore. You can really tell I was scared of adding more contrast in the rendering, which is okay, you don't have to add lots of contrast. However, I wanted this to look like a traditional painting, which I shied away from in the final outcome. I can tell back when I originally made this, I also did not have the new outline figured out, as I was still fighting through a very messy plot outline of old and new ideas clashing. Like for an example, in the older outline, before I started adding in some new ideas of where I wanted to take the series, Suki did not even exist. Hoshi was the only child. Which is super weird thinking about now, as Suki is a very important secondary character. In the older portrait, I found it interesting how Camilla had purple hair, and not Yoru, as the purple hair is a trait passed down the Mercury family since the first generation. As abnormal hair colour is completely natural in this series, so Kenichi, Yoru's father, once had purple hair in his youth as well. Not to mention, I had updated Yoru's design since then. And he no longer looks like this at all. And, lore inconsistency moment, Camilla has a star brooch as well, which isn't accurate to the lore anymore. The oldest child from the new generation will inherit the star brooch if the previous head retires like Kenichi did, or passes away like what happened to Yoru. So for example, if Hoshi worked alongside Suki to inherit the family, Suki would be the only one wearing the star brooch, due to her being the oldest sibling. Unless she renounces ownership or loses her life, then Hoshi will inherit it until the next generation comes along. So this old painting is very outdated, and I think it's about time I improve on it. For the painting itself, I used this impasto brush pack that I got from the official Krita YouTube channel, which they sort of behave and look much like traditional paintbrushes. I don't use these brushes too often, so this was like the perfect opportunity for it. I was very nervous painting this portrait. It was very much trust the process, as part of me felt like I hadn't improved much, and I was worried that this painting would prove me right. However, I felt like a lot of my life has changed since my last attempt, even in the past year alone, so I focused on just trusting the process and enjoy the process of painting, which took me a total of 5 hours by the way, much longer than I originally thought. So while this time-lapse plays, let's ramble more about the Mercury family itself. The family is widely known in the public eye for running a funeral parlor business, where they carry services for the deceased. And while they're based in powerful territory, Suki and Hoshi's father, Yoru, who is a very nice character and I totally do not despise at all, worked his life away to expand the business to powerless territory, which worked in his favour as the entire Mercury bloodline are powerless, people without any supernatural ability, until Hoshi randomly became powerful out of nowhere. which is genetically impossible. However, he didn't inherit his power of teleportation until I'd say like a couple of years after his parents passed. Also, fun fact, I find it kinda difficult sometimes to figure out how long X event has happened before this ever event occurs. Because when I get older, I tend to age the characters up a bit, like, back when I was a teenager writing this series, Eren, Hoshi, and Cassidy were also teenagers in secondary school, but that conflicted with the plot that I wanted to tell. Then Eren and Cassidy were 18 and Hoshi was 17, I think, and now they're all in their early 20s because that's where I am at in my life. It's currently more relatable and relevant to me. Aging up the characters a little helped me and the story so much. Plus, we need more superhero stories where the characters are all adults trying to make a living, having to juggle the double life, which is very much seen in Livia's character, who has so many jobs, including one to help out Eren, Cassidy, and Hoshi fight off these strange creatures. Even though this painting took me so long, I really enjoyed using these impasto brushes, adding form to these characters who a lot of the time are just drawn to be flat cel-shaded PNGs. During the series, there'll be quite a few paintings like this, maybe one character, maybe two halves of one piece lost, or it may be a family portrait as seen here. The Mercury family, as I said before, are very wealthy, so it would have been very simple for them to hire a painter each generation. I think Yoru was the trickiest to paint here due to his very sharp features, which required a lot of rendering. He most likely took me the longest to paint out of the four characters. I also wanted Suki and Yoru to feel connected in this piece, Suki being the only person that Yoru ever valued during this point in time, due to her being the family heir, which you can see by Yoru having his hand on Suki's shoulder. Not to mention their matching outfits, which was very intentional to make Hoshi and Camilla feel like outsiders or irrelevant to Yoru. I really enjoyed drawing and painting little Hoshi here. He's just so precious and happy. Even though I don't like Yoru as a character, which is intentional by the way, I am excited for you all to find out what drove him to become the way he is. Also, here is a fact. Hoshi during the first season, especially when he is angry, tends to mirror his father's behaviour a lot, as that was how he observed his father coping with his emotions growing up. Suki, by extension, is also the same, but tends to take it out on herself rather than others. Most of the time. Anyways, wow, that was a lot. The final asset of the visual novel is complete. I replaced the storyboards in DaVinci Resolve with the finalized assets, and with that, after 6 days, this project has finally reached an end. Hello guys, I am here to confess something. It's not easy for me to confess this, but I really messed up. I really messed up. When I noticed how bad I messed up, it was like, 8 o'clock in the morning, I jolted out of bed because this mistake was just so ginormous to me that it hurt so bad, but I literally cannot stop thinking about it. So I'm like, okay, I just need to confess, I need to get it out of my system, out of my life. So, you see this shot here, there's actually nothing wrong with this, I don't think. Maybe the perspective's a little odd, I don't know, Kenichi's looking good, Then I, go to the previous frame. Where is his mustache? How could I have forgotten such a crucial character design detail and just not notice? This is what's been bothering me. This is my confession. I really messed up, and now that I've posted this visual novel online, I just have to live with it now. That I made such a horrible error, and I can't make up an excuse like, oh, this scene happened months ago, so by the time Kenichi sees Suki, he'll have time to have a mustache. No, this is like the same day. I forgot. I don't understand how I forgot it here, but I drew it here. I wouldn't have cared that much if I just didn't draw it here, but I forgot. What made me realize this was I was just watching the visual novel this morning, on my phone just for the funsies. I was like, wow, I'm so proud of this. And then I was like, wow, Kenichi's mustache, it's kind of a cool character design quip, I guess, where, I don't have to draw his mouth. It's just like, I just draw his mustache, and it's like that kind of acts as his mouth, because I can bend it and like show his various expressions, which is fun. which I kind of experimented with in his sprites. But then I realized, the flashback scene, he has a mouth there. But I'm like, nah, I drew his mustache in, didn't I? You know, like, I genuinely felt my heart sink. It hurt so bad when I realized I forgot. And truth be told, I may or may not have drawn this during art school. Should I have? Maybe not. Maybe I shouldn't have snuck this in. But, you know, I was like, okay, it's fine. I'm like half listening. I'm listening as I'm working, you know, this sort of stuff. But then because I was at art school, I didn't have any references of him. I guess when I drew this, I thought of his older design, which has been with me longer than his newer design of the mustache. Because I gave him a mustache, like, gosh, recently, like last year, I decided to just update his design, you know? So I think, like, before this visual novel, I've only drawn him with a mustache only once before. So his ever design, I guess, is just muscle memory to me. Oh, you have no idea how much this hurts me inside. This is even worse than the time I forgot to draw Erin's hair strand. Because this is more noticeable. I do a whole pan shot with this. You know, there's also another error with Kenichi too. Let me find it. Yeah, so you know this scene here? Well, I also made a great mistake here with Kenichi once again. In the original drawing, you know, it didn't dawn on me till after I posted the visual novel. Of course, I couldn't have noticed while I was editing it all together and watching it several times before I posted it. Ahaha. I forgot to export Kenichi's body. In the original Kruta drawing, he had a body here. You could see like behind here, but no, it's just the background. I forgot to edit it. I spent time drawing that. I'm so just distraught. How could I forget? How could I make a mistake? It's almost as if I'm a human being or something. Yeah, I will admit, on the last day, I was kind of, you know, I just wanted this visual novel done. I was like, okay, cool, these flashback scenes are done. You know, just you add them in. I didn't really notice that I didn't draw in Kenichi's mustache. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, guys, and I'm recording this. Since I messed up on the drawings of Kenichi, I'll be showing you the director's cut, if you will, of this project. The original version, flaws and all, will be linked down below, which please give it some support if you can. Making a visual novel so in-depth for the first time was a lot of fun, and I would definitely consider making some more content for One of the Powerful in this format in the future, even if it's just some side content. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching this far, and until next time.